Hey everyone, Penem here again. Today, well, we have the promised and maybe awaited deck profile, the budget deck profile made from 2 copies of the starter deck Code Breaker. So that deck has a lot of awesome reprints, a lot of staples, and some pretty interesting new cards, but it has one main problem or concern, and that part is the lack of good extra deck monsters to summon. You have some pretty decent ones, but you have far more resources than what you should need for them, and you really want to exploit those resources you're given. So the deck will consist of 2 starter decks, but we will also have some little recommendations for the possibility of adding some very cheap and budget-friendly good options for the extra deck after the vid. So we'll split the extra deck, the main deck, and our few suggestions, and let's get started. So we have one Cyber's White Hat. So this card is decent to extend some combos. It's also pretty decent to get over some big monsters your opponent might have. And it's also a good way to tribute some stuff you don't want on your field. So a very decent card, but you don't want to play more than 1 or 2 of these. I only put 1 in, but 2 would be the max I would be okay with. We have Link Slayer twice because you're given once per deck, and this is your main way of getting rid of your opponent's back row or your own cards depending on the situation. If your opponent has stuff that negates spells and traps, well, you're screwed. So you're going to want to have some monster effects that get rid of your opponent's back row and stuff like that. So 2 Link Slayers, they're very easy to summon, they're Cyberse monsters, they're decent beat sticks with 2000 attack, and they have a decent effect too. So we'll take them as many as we can. Widget Kid twice. You could run 3 if you ever find a third one, but 2 is plenty in this version of the build. It allows you to go into your combo. This is the combo starter, while this is the combo extender. So yeah, this card is very useful to summon monsters on your field to get into your Link monsters, and it's also a decent Earth level 3, 1500 attack. It's not that bad, actually. We have Ram Clouder twice because it's a good beat stick that acts just like a monster reborn. And really guys, if you have a Ram Clouder in your hand and a widget in your grave, there's a lot of combos you can do. But if you have two Clouders, not 2 Clouders, but like if you have backup, a Clouder, and a widget, a lot of great combos can be done right here. Because honestly, summon this, special this, you special summon this from your hand because of its own effect. You can go into a Link 3 right here, or you could go into a Link 2, then use Ram Clouder, tribute it, special summon Widget Kid, or do whatever you want on the next turn with it. You can do a lot of combos with this. So honestly, Ram Clouder is a must. Obviously, a little suggestions I offer to you guys would be to get some Ram Claudias, or whatever the name is, the black looking sheep thing from the previous deck. That one is also a very viable option in this deck over here. It's actually better than this one for some reasons, not all of them, but it's a very budget-friendly option to add in here and get more Cyberse monsters in your deck. 2 backup secretaries because it's a combo extender or combo starter actually. Easy special summon from your hand as long as you have a Cyberse on your field, and if you start the game with 2, well, at least that's a Link 2 monster you just got, because it doesn't have to be a monster different from backup secretary. It can be another secretary on your field. We have Bit Trooper. You can send a level 2 or lower monster from your hand to the graveyard to special summon this card from your hand. We haven't seen any level 2 or lowers yet. We've seen some level 3s, but no level 2s. We'll see some in the rest of the deck. And honestly, this is a good way to start your combos off, or unbrick your hand if you had a certain situation going on. It's also a 2000 defense monster, so if you're going against Trickstars and you haven't lost yet in mid-game, this could be tough for them to beat. Mid-game, their resources might have been depleted already if you survived that long. We have Text Changer, which is one of the level 2s or lower, twice. This card is a once per turn effect, but when a monster you control is targeted for an attack, you can negate the attack and special summon a Cyberse normal monster from your hand, deck, or graveyard. So even if you used those monsters for link summons, you still get to summon them again. This is great to unbrick. It's also a good option to stall the game, but do think about the fact that this negates only one attack per turn. Even if you have two of them, it's only one attack because the effect is a once per turn. No, pardon me. Forget about that. It's a once per turn per card. But still, I mean, you won't get two on the field in a usual game. But anyway, we also have some normal monsters for it. We have two Leotron, which is a very decent beat stick, and one Bittron, which is a very decent defense. Also a level 2 or lower, by the way. We have one Cyber Dragon. Quick suggestion would be to have the Mega Fleet fusion monster in your extra deck, because it's a very good way of, you summon Cyber Dragon, take your opponent's monster in their extra monster zone, you have one monster on the field, when you already had one at the beginning of your turn, but your opponent has one fewer, and you can still use the one you just made for a link summon. So basically, you didn't lose any resource, and your opponent lost one monster. It's a free bonus, and Mega Fleet isn't too expensive at the moment. It's one of the most expensive cards I'm going to suggest to you guys. We also have Marshmallow because you need to protect yourself, and it's good to burn. It's also a good card to have to help you go into your bigger link monsters, because this will survive if your opponent does not expect it. We have Beast King Barbaros, which can be summoned with 1900 attack, which is a beat stick, without having to tribute. But if you have the chance to tribute summon it with 3 tributes, you are able to destroy all cards your opponent controls, which is a very big bonus, because this deck has a lot of stuff that stalls, and you have a lot of ways to special summon 3 monsters. Like, honestly, it's ridiculous. Link Slayer with Backup Secretary and Cyberse White Hat. Special allows you to special summon this. You just got 3 cards, you discard 1 to destroy your opponent's back row or something. You could have done that before summoning the other 2, that would have been smarter actually. And then you have 3 cards to tribute for this guy who will blow your opponent's field entirely and be at 3000 attack for a direct attack, which is a very welcome thing in this day and age of Yu-Gi-Oh! We have Battle Fader because we need some level 2 or lower cards for our Bit Trooper, but also because this helps you fill up your field, protect your life points, and when your opponent blows your field, which this deck does not stop very often, at least you'll have something in your hand to protect yourself. So we have it twice. And that concludes the monster lineup. We have some spells and traps. We have one Silent Universe because it's not only a good thing to boost your monster's attack, but it's also a good recycler, and it's also a good way to blow it up, to blow your opponent's extra link zones, or their, when they do the U-link. Basically, you can blow 2 of their monsters. The only reason we're playing 1 is because that effect also works if your opponent blows it against you. If you are having the extra monster zones filled and your opponent has a hard time and you have this on the field, they can just blow this up and you basically lost your big advantage. So that's why we're only playing 1. It's a good tech, it's spicy, but it's not a very awesome strategy to use. We have one Silent Recovery. I've been over this card in the previous vid where we reviewed the deck, but this is good for last resort style or a final stand kind of a deck. It's not necessarily good for combo decks. It's better when you're in a bad situation, let's say. We have Mystical Space Typhoon twice, because blowing your opponent's back row is the only way this deck is going to actually go into its combos. You can't do much against your opponent's hand traps with this deck, but at least you can blow their Torrential Tributes, you can blow their Solemn Judgments, Solemn Strikes, Solemn Warnings, because you don't have any of those in your own deck either. You'd actually just prefer them not being on the board. It's also a good way to blow your own field spell and make some space and whatever. So 2 of these is very useful. One Dark Hole because you don't have access to Raigeki and it's an expensive card. We have 2 Scapegoats. We've been over this in the previous vid also, but Yeah, with the extra deck you are given with these two decks, you don't have a lot of potential out of these. But with this little recommendations or suggestions I'm going to offer you guys, these will be more valuable or more useful to you guys. So do keep in mind playing two is also good. But also, this helps you against your opponent when their opponent is attacking you with multiple monsters that don't have any piercing battle damage effects. This is able to stall the game and might allow you to go into something on the next turn. We have one Monster Reborn because bringing back links is the best way for you to have multiple links on the board at the same time in this deck. We have one Book of Moon to interrupt your opponent from either attacking, using their effects, or going into link monsters. If they obviously are going into something big, they can't use face down monsters for materials. We have one Ego Boost because sometimes you will need to go over your opponent's monsters' attacks, whether they be attacking you or you be attacking them. And then we have our trap cards. We have one Silent Regression because it's a decent card. It doesn't have a very fun activation requirement, but at the same time, being able to blow a card and draw a card is very useful in here. And honestly, you don't lose anything by using this because honestly, most of the cards in your deck are able to go into something. It doesn't have to be a good link as long as it's a link. We have two Mirror Forces because, stopping your opponent from attacking you directly is the only way you're actually going to survive, but also because it protects your monsters against a lot of stuff. If your opponent doesn't have any destruction negation, you'll be fine using Mirror Force and not storming Mirror Force. One, Call of the Haunted, because one Monster Reborn is not enough. Two would be okay, but I do still prefer one. If you start the game with two Call of the Haunted and one Monster Reborn in your hand, what are you going to do? You don't have enough monsters to have anything of interest in your graveyard. We have Bottomless Chapel twice, Torrential twice, and Compulsory twice. These are your disruption cards. Mirror Force is nice, but it's very situational. These will stop your opponent from going into big monsters, and if you're going first, this is what will make you have a fighting chance on the third turn of the game. These two will stop your opponent from using the materials again. These two will wipe the board clean, and these two are for cards that can't be destroyed. When your opponent is using the Nightmare link monsters, usually they'll go with Phoenix, which stop destructions, but not targeting, I believe. So this is a good way to stop the opponent straight there, not going to give them any more chances. And since it's at 3, 2 is plenty. 3 would be a little too much in this deck, but we have access to 2. We are provided 2 with the decks. We'll use 2. So that is 40 cards on the spot. You could put more, you could put fewer and replace, I guess. But this is a very budget, very efficient deck right here. You could also include Raikou, which is not included in here. But you could include Raikou instead of Beast King. It's also a level 2 or lower, so you could use that for your Bit Trooper. But I mean, it's also a very decent flip effect that fills your graveyard. It's just a very situational and risky card because your opponent might just not care about it. And then you would just basically lose 3 cards for the effect activation. Kind of sad, but still worth it. We have Transcode Talker twice because we're given 2. Decode Talker twice because we're given 2. Pentastag twice because we're given 2. Link Kuriboh and Link Spider twice because we're given 2 of each. So basically, you take all the extra deck monsters you're provided in the starter decks, and you put them together, which gives you a total of 10 monsters, I believe? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 extra deck cards. You still have space for 5. Add a Mega Fleet if you have a chance. That's already a big bonus right here. You can obviously take out one of these and one of these because they're not needed, but these are very good for your scapegoats. And Transcode is basically the one card you don't want to change to fewer because you need it to make most of your combos viable. This will help you activate your trap card regression. This will also help you go into some bigger combos or into some more link monsters on your field than just one. Basically, these are the cards you must play. And a few quick suggestions, more than the ones I already gave you guys. To stay budget friendly, we'll take some very cheap cards. But Underclock Taker is a very good card in here. Use this for your scapegoat combos, and you've got a very good field. Okay? So basically, you need 2 effect monsters to make this, but this points to your field and not your opponent's field. So you activate Scapegoat, you used a goat for Link, you used a goat for, I don't know, another Link Spider. You can go into Underclock, and then you could do a lot more combos, actually. That's ridiculous. But basically, you got your Underclock and you still have 2 tokens. You can do a lot more with this, obviously, but the rest will come with the actual rest of the suggestions I have. Because we also have Proxy Dragon, which only needs 2 monsters and nothing else. And this is a very affordable card right now because it's a promo from a tin, and those tins are going out of stock a lot of places because they actually want to get rid of them. This is cheap because it's very accessible, but also because the next tins are coming out pretty soon, and so this is actually being, the tins in which this come, they're being sold very cheap right now. And this is a very good card for this deck. Again, because of Scapegoat. You make a Link Spider, use 2 tokens to make Proxy, use 1 more token to make Link Spider, and boom, you have 4 cards you can use for your Borolo Dragon, for your Firewall Dragon, for your Boral Guard, for your Boral Sword, or whatever the hell you want to make Link 4 out of. You could, instead of a Link Spider, use a Link Karibo, and go into Sayuja, which is 3 different monsters, so you get the full combo, but that's a very expensive card again. Or you could make this combo work this way specifically, and then this goes into a Link 3 Transcode, and Transcode allows you to special summon back Proxy. So with 1 Scapegoat, you basically got a total of 6 Link rating, like a 1, a 3, and a 2. So out of 4 tokens, you didn't normal summon yet, and you have 3 Link monsters, 1 that can deal with your opponent's attacks, 1 that gives each card its co-linked with bonus attack, and 1 that protects them from stuff. But you know, it's not necessarily good, but you still get to normal summon, and this is where it gets very good. Because if you normal summon a Cyberse monster here, you can always use Proxy and that Cyberse monster to go into another suggestions that I don't have on hand right now, but X-Code Talker, the one from Extreme Force, is very valuable here. It would increase your Transcode's attack by another 500, and it would also protect it, which is very valuable at this point. It also helps you stop your opponent from using the next zone they would have. So basically, you have control over the 2 zones for a bit, and at the same time, you've got a 3300 monster here. You have a 2800 attack monster here. This one is only at 800, but you don't really care about this one for the moment. It's mostly just in case your opponent attacks you. But yeah, I mean, you've got a great board right there. All of it is out of 1 Scapegoat and 1 Cyberse normal summon monster. It's very good out of 2 cards for a $20 deck with like $2 or $3 card and a $6 X code, I believe. I believe it's $6, but it's under $10 anyway. So yeah, really that is great. But also, you could use the Nightmare Engine. And the Nightmare Engine in here is also very worth using. But at the same time, you don't have a lot of space in your extra deck, and you want to concentrate on using the Code Talkers because they will be getting more support. And most of the support for that archetype will always be in starter decks, so it's guaranteed to be useful to you. It's guaranteed to be affordable, and really, other than Xcode, most of it will be under $10. You'll get a deck with the card. So yeah, these were the basic suggestions I had for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed. I honestly believe this deck has a chance at a local, or at least with other friends who are just playing a very budget build. So like if you're playing on the playground at your school and stuff like that, and you don't want your bullies or whatever people at school who might steal your valuable cards, this is a decent deck with very little money invested in it that can play a lot of good combos, as well as have a fighting chance against a lot of decent decks nowadays. And it's also the main character's deck. So I mean, a lot of people will want to play this, or at least want to see how it works. So yeah, I recommend you guys try this deck out. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this vid. If you did, please like the vid and tell me in the comment section down below if you want to see more of these budget builds. I really do enjoy making them. It's just that if not a lot of people are interested in them, I might actually focus on some bigger decks most of the times. It's not like I do a lot of deck profiles, but I do want to make more. I do feel like a lot of you guys out there and girls out there do enjoy these kinds of videos more than some of the opening vids I do. But yeah, for the time being, please just mention if you want to see more of these deck profiles I try to do. And until next time, guys, it's been a pleasure, and Penem out.